take two. This video is part of another video that I made last week that wasn't a take two but was in the place of a take two. Today's video is essentially another review of this video here, of the cosplays from that video. I know that this video is going to cut directly into a different editing me that I did prior to this because I wasn't going to make this a take two. I am now because I really didn't feel like this section needed to be in my Comic-Con experience video because it is predominantly about my cosplay. So this is a thought out after con review of my Sailor Jupiter cosplay from this video here. So yeah, if you're interested, feel free to continue watching. How'd the cosplay and the con bag handle throughout the day? Hello, Editing Brooklyn here. I, in this section specifically, mentioned quite a bit about about a video I never made. So I recorded it and then upon editing, didn't want to edit it. Essentially, I made a video about packing two different con bags, but since I was going to one con and only going for the day, wasn't staying in the city or anything, I made an in-con bag, so like my purse and everything that would go in there, and then one that would stay in the car that actually was very useful. So any reference to a con bag or a car con bag, essentially I made a video. This is the list of the things that was in those bags. I don't feel like editing that video. It wasn't a very good video. I made it on a whim. So yeah, this is the stuff that I'm talking about when I'm talking about stuff in my con bag. Continuing on with the video. So going into the con, as I mentioned earlier, I was there 15 minutes at the start, and then we were led into the actual con hall and stood there for about half an hour to an hour. Pretty simple. It was at that time that I noticed 3 tears on my skirt, in the hem of my skirt. Yeah, that first time that I had to go back to the car, my partner's car, that was to sew up those 3, then 4 tears in my skirt. And I fully blame the fact that it is Polypop fabric and not really nice fabric, and that I used a straight stitch on that fabric as well. So the skirt, everything else in my cosplay was fantastic. Like, the only other things that I have to sort of pick apart would be the necklace that I wore, because it ended up actually being too small for me. I misjudged the size of my neck, and where the Velcro should go on the back of my neck. The shoes, which did leave blisters, but not on the back of my heel, but rather on the sides of my feet. But that was also agitated by the sandals that I wore to sort of alleviate that pain halfway through the day. However, the Armbands, which I'll get into later, were much better than the fucking skirt. The next thing that sort of irritated me was the gloves. Definitely the gloves. I knew that would be a problem from the start. That's why I sort of left the arm rolls and the gloves separate. It was a good choice personally. And then was the butt bow and the waist roll. So first things first again, the skirt fucking sucked. The skirt I had to save with the waist roll, and the waist roll, absolutely bliss. I loved it. It very much helped hide the more unseemly parts of my skirt, which is what it was supposed to do. It did twist halfway through the day, but that was because of the bow, and the bow was kind of pinned halfway to the waist roll, halfway to the skirt, mostly to the bodysuit. So I couldn't really fix it all that well. But that's just something that I can fix later. Both pieces of the butt bow and the waist roll were detachable. The skirt, however, Oh my god, was it a pain. By the end of the day, I found another tear in the skirt. And it was just really frustrating to see. Like, it was all in the extra hem that the tears were. There was a bit of fraying at the top of the skirt, because in like the waistband of the skirt also continuously rode upwards, and I had to pull it down, which is probably what led to the fucking skirt tearing. Because I had to pull it down, the skirt started tearing because it was going up in my body. It wasn't fun. In pictures, it looked okay at best. You would have seen in this video, I was very tempted to buy a second skirt. There was a costume shop that I really wanted to visit. In like the hanging display was a Sailor Jupiter cosplay. I was so tempted to buy the skirt because the skirt was detachable and put it on my cosplay because how bad the like actual skirt was. The only problem was that came with a bow itself. I didn't want to change bows. I just wanted to change the skirt, and it was also $30. I thought, I can just deal with this. I've had it on for half the day. I can deal with it for the rest of the day. So the skirt, I'll still keep it for now because the colour matches like the rest of the cosplay. But for now, I'll keep the skirt. I'm going to replace the skirt in the future. This will stay the same. I don't really mind if the collar and skirt are slightly different in colour, but I'd probably choose a thicker fabric like the bows for the skirt. Now, moving on to this actually, so I've fully washed and dried the bodysuit, and this is going to be hanging up in my wardrobe, meaning that I have to clear out the wardrobe a little bit so I have space for this so it doesn't crush the bow. And I have actually snipped off this from this. You can see on both pieces where I've sewed it, so I'm keeping that purposely so that I can unpick it when I need to, sew it back on, and like I can reuse this bodysuit for say the Sailor Moon one if the Sailor Moon one sort of doesn't work. But this is gonna be my main really good bodysuit because it works really well. The bodysuit was perfectly fine the entire day. Like the elastic felt nice. I might need to like fix up some of the stitches, as some of them, the more looser stitches, have like come undone. Some of the like hemming has sort of also come undone, but like actually wearing it and maybe like pressing it with an iron and all that will fix that. Nothing has really come off from, actually point blank, nothing has come off from this. The collar and bow, perfectly fine, though like at the start of the day I was wearing my bag strap underneath the bow and it felt uncomfortable because I thought I was revealing myself, because this stretches differently from this because this isn't directly sewn on to here but rather to these points here. The sewing that I did on the back here disappeared throughout the day, so it sort of just came up and started doing that a bit, but I didn't pay attention to it clearly because it didn't really matter. I only did that for an extra little bit, but I now know I just need to sew on here and it'll be done. But that will now go into my wardrobe as I can hang it up and it'll look perfectly fine. Everything else, with exception to the silk gloves, because the silk gloves aren't sewn to the cosplay, so I can use them for whatever I want. Which makes me now think, why the fuck did I buy 2 pairs of silk gloves and not just use the pair of gloves that I already had, but doesn't matter. But in this bag here is the rest of my cosplay, filled with like the armbands, the accessories, both like necklaces that I had, and the butt bow and even the skirt. So this is gonna go into a cosplay box. Skirt, fucking awful. We'll make a different one. I might make one with an actual zipper in it. With an actual zipper in it. and with like different pleats, maybe a different color, definitely a different fabric. But other than that, the skirt actually looked really good, for as good as it could look. The most unseemly part of my cosplay was the skirt. The rest of it looked beautiful. It looked perfectly fine. The shoes that I wore looked like it could be part of the cosplay. It was perfect. Like, it was exactly how I imagined it, except for the fucking skirt. The skirt is the main thing that I have issues with. It is also the last and most rushed thing I made. And it's also made me reconsider what fabric I'm using for the Sailor Moon cosplay. And like the skirt that I have, the skirt and the collar that I have for the Sailor Moon cosplay, I do not like whatsoever. Like, the fabric that I have is too slippery to work with. So I'm going to get a different color fabric and a different feel of fabric. I think I'm going to get the same like cotton drill as I did for the bows of both fabric. Now, that being said, the last thing that I want to talk about is the armbands. Now, the armbands were fantastic. That and the collar are probably the best things about my cosplay. The armbands were perfect. The gloves sucked. I barely wore the gloves unless it was for photos or if it was for like the cosplay parade. The gloves sucked, and on the day it was 26, it was fairly warm, not as warm as today, not as hot as today, but it was fairly warm, and it was also like semi-air conditioned in the con room, but it was still hot. I still felt hot wearing the gloves. Ironically, out of everything I wore, the gloves made me the most warm, as did the armbands. But I could wear the armbands on their own just fine and no one batted an eye. It was just the gloves that were really, really painful to wear. And, yeah, I just did not wear the gloves for half the day unless it was for a cosplay opportunity. The last thing I want to talk about is the shoes themselves, because I actually do have a helpful hint with the shoes, and with something that I put in my con bag. So, something that I put in my con bag because I wasn't sure if I was going to use them is panty liners. Now, the reason I put them in is because for cosplays such as these, on hot days, you tend to get like really sweaty. If you don't want sweat stains on your cosplays, people tend to put panty liners in the armpits of the cosplays. However, with mine being a lightweight material, being semi-handmade, so some of the seams don't aren't stitched together properly, and that's something that I admit. I was really worried that if I switched out panty liners, it would rip off some of the seams, plus they might show on the actual cosplay themselves, plus the fact that I didn't think I'd need them because I wouldn't sweat all that much, and like there are no stains on my cosplay, no yellow stains on my cosplay at least, like I didn't need them. For the bodysuit, that is. So, something that I found, right, with the actual cosplay themselves, like with the actual shoes themselves, so I have Doc Martens, and for the last 2 weeks, I've been breaking them in. I've been wearing them as much as I can. I have, like, out in public, I've worn them a total of maybe 4 times. One of those times being into the city. In a previous video, I talked about how much my feet fucking hurt because that was the first time I'd ever worn them. The second time, like, without doing anything to them. I didn't realize you had to break them in as much as you do. The second time, I'd broken them in partially by spending an hour on both, like, an hour collectively on the shoes, just pressing in on the seams, and that seemed to work fine for a 2 to 3 hour trip to a shopping centre. The next thing, like the next times I would wear them was to break them in, and they'll be for like 15 to 20 minutes, 15 to half an hour shopping trips for like groceries and shit like that. They were fine then, but it was like 15 minutes, so you can't really do anything with that. But during that time, I've spent a collective 3 to 4 hours pressing in on the back seam and the front seam of these shoes. I have the Doc Marten 1460 Pascals, and these in this like mermaid scale sort of pattern. is, as you can see, there's like scuff marks all on the insides and all that. I don't really care about that. It's just if the outside looks bad, I get scared. With these comes a bigger difficulty in breaking in your shoes, because with the classic Docs, you can get like different oils, like you can use oil, different creams, all of that to help break in and soften the leather for your Docs. Pascals are different, especially these ones. These are more decorative. They have like different finishes on them, and putting creams and shit like that on them would destroy the finishes. That is what I found off of other YouTubers, at least. So breaking these in, I knew was going to be difficult, especially since I wanted to wear them for cons. So starting, I think, December 1st or late November, early December, when I was actually physically making the cosplay, I started pressing in on these. And this only ramped up as of the week of con. So I technically broke these in within a week. Realistically, it was over maybe a month total of me sort of breaking these in, wearing them around while I was actually making the cosplay. But that being said, I was continuously sewing the cosplay up until Thursday the 9th of December. Thursday the 9th of December is when I officially finished my cosplay. And in that week, I was almost every night pressing on the back heel here exactly like this, and pressing on the front here like this. And this only continued to me doing this for 2 hours every day up until con. So Friday, Saturday, 2 hours was spent pressing on fucking shoes. Prior to that, there was a collective of 4 hours of me doing that. Half an hour per shoe. I would just like chuck on Psyche K or something like that. I definitely did that when breaking these in. But that being said, you can see like they're all like bent and creased like that. That's how they're supposed to look once they've been broken in. The heel was nothing, honestly. I have no blisters on the back of my heels, which is perfect, seeing as the things that fuck with me the most with this is my heels. Like, I wear pretty thick socks with these, like decently thick socks now. And my feet are my heels are perfectly fine. The thing that really hurts is like, I'm wearing Christmassy socks. So is this part here of my foot, the top of my like arch, I guess, of my foot. I have really high arches, so the seam rubbing against the top of my foot really hurts. And so I was like pressing in on the seams that really hurt me. Didn't realize that these sides of my foot would also really fucking hurt. That would be my own fault in bringing in sandals that have arch supports. As in the sandals themselves are attached to you via straps that go over your foot arches, meaning that it irritated the sides of my feet even more. So when I went out for lunch, I wore sandals because I thought it would be so much easier than the Docs. They were much worse than the Docs. The Docs themselves were fine. However, it was about 4 hours into the con, and the backs of my heels were actually starting to like be rubbed against and feel like they were kind of hurting. So what I did was something that I'd actually seen to try when breaking in your Docs, which is they suggest pads. I suggest panty liners because they're smaller, they're slightly thinner. I highly suggest putting panty liners in your shoes. I only put them in on the heels. My heels are completely fine. I probably should have also put them over the arch of my like foot as well, and I may do that in the future, but that like made my feet feel so much better throughout the rest of the day, putting in panty liners. Like, you stick the sticky part of the panty liner to the back of your heel on your sock, and like you can rip them off later and they're completely fine. And it's just easier to work around your foot than a pad. So I 100% like wingless panty liners, I guess. Just panty liners, you put them on the back of your foot. Oh my god, my heels fucking felt amazing the rest of the day. The only things that hurt for the rest of the day were the sides of my feet, but I covered those in like band-aids, put my socks back on, completely fine because they weren't fully rubbing against stuff, but they did still hurt for the rest of the day. And that is all for today's Take 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was pretty much me once again ranting about my Sailor Jupiter cosplay and how much I fucking hated the skirt. I don't know when I'll be continuing the Sailor Moon cosplay, but I do definitely have ideas for that. But yes, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's Take 2. Yeah, if you want to see me making cosplays in real time, I'd suggest going over to my Instagram, Brookie is Dreaming, or you could subscribe to this channel to see the full process at work. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. I upload every Wednesday at 10 AM Australian Eastern Daylight Time, occasionally on these Fridays, once again at 10 AM Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and I hope to see you there. Bye!